Welcome to the Akashic Library.
You know, what is it that keeps a person going? I mean, even in the absolute worst circumstances imaginable. Well, today, we're diving into the incredible philosophy of Viktor Frankl, a man who found the answer to that very question in one of history's darkest moments. Frankl's entire philosophy really can be boiled down to this one powerful idea. See, it's not about some grand cosmic meaning that's just floating out there for us to find. Nope. It's about the personal responsibility that each of us has to actually create it for ourselves. And that's the real gut punch, isn't it? It's a feeling that is so common today. You can have all the freedom, all the comfort in the world, and still feel this deep, nagging sense of emptiness. So, what's the deal with that? Well, Frankl saw this coming a mile away. He pinpointed this very modern problem, a crisis not of, surviving, but a crisis of purpose. Let's take a look at what he saw. Does any of this ring a bell? I mean, we work jobs to buy things we don't really need, all while distracting ourselves from that feeling that something major is missing. And those traditional sources of meaning, like a tight-knit community or faith, well, for a lot of people, they've kind of faded, and that's left a huge void. Frankl actually gave this feeling a name, the existential vacuum. Now, this isn't necessarily depression in the clinical sense, but it's this profound state of boredom and apathy. It's that deep-seated feeling of what's the point that can really lead to despair. And he understood this condition in his bones because his ideas were tested under the most extreme pressure you can imagine. To really, truly understand Frankl's philosophy, we have to go to the place where it was literally forged in fire, the concentration camps of World War II. As a prisoner, Frankl was stripped of literally everything: his home, his family, his dignity, his freedom. He was surrounded by starvation, sickness, and the constant looming threat of death. And it was right there, in this utterly hopeless place, that he made a fascinating and crucial observation. He saw this clear split among the prisoners. The ones who gave up, who felt like there was nothing left to live for, they were way more likely to get sick and die. But the ones who endured, the ones who found some reason, any reason to keep going, they had a much better chance of survival. The difference was their why. This story just illustrates the point so powerfully. There was this one prisoner who had a dream that he'd be liberated on a specific date. He pinned all of his hope on that one day. And when March 13th came and went and nothing happened, his will to live just collapsed. And his body followed soon after. You see, his meaning was fragile because it was tied to something outside of himself. And all of this led Frankl to his most powerful insight, the idea that even when every single external freedom is ripped away from you, there is one that can never, ever be taken. Just think about it for a second. They can take all your stuff, everything you've ever worked for, gone. They can even take your liberty, locking up your body and controlling your every single move. And this, right here, this is the core of his discovery. No matter what is happening to you, you always have the freedom to choose how you respond. Your attitude, your inner perspective, that is the one thing that is always yours. That is the ultimate source of human dignity. Okay, so if the key is finding this why, then why doesn't just pursuing happiness work? Well, Frankl would argue that our modern obsession with being happy is actually a giant trap. See, chasing happiness or success or pleasure for their own sake, it's like eating candy when you're starving for a real meal. Yeah, you get a momentary rush, but it just leaves you feeling emptier than before. They're cheap substitutes, really. Just distractions from the real hard work of finding a genuine purpose. So here's the crucial takeaway. Happiness isn't the goal. It's a byproduct. It's the thing that just kind of happens on its own when you find a reason, a purpose, a meaning for your life. You don't hunt it down. You find a cause you care about, and happiness just shows up. Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we find this meaning? Frankl didn't just point out the problem, he gave us a practical roadmap. He outlined 3 clear paths to discovering meaning in our own lives. So first, you can find meaning in what you create or what you do, building something, solving a problem, helping someone out. Second, you can find it through connection, by experiencing beauty and nature or art, or by truly loving another person. And third, and this one is the most radical, by finding meaning in suffering itself, when that suffering is unavoidable. This story is just a perfect example of that third path. Frankl was counseling an elderly doctor who was devastated by the death of his wife. Frankl didn't try to take his pain away. Instead, he helped him reframe it. He asked him, "What if you had died first?" The doctor realized his suffering meant that he had spared his beloved wife from having to go through that same pain. Suddenly, his grief wasn't just pain anymore, it was an act of love. He turned his tragedy into a triumph. Frankl quoted the philosopher Nietzsche all the time, and this line just perfectly sums up his entire worldview. If your why, your purpose, your meaning, is strong enough, you can endure almost any how life throws at you. The suffering doesn't just disappear, but it becomes bearable. It even becomes meaningful. And so, after all this, it really comes down to one simple, direct, and deeply personal question. And it's not a question for philosophers or people in extreme situations. It's a question for every single one of us, right here, right now. What is the cause, the connection, or the attitude that gives your life meaning? What is your why?
Every problem contains the seeds of its own solution when viewed correctly. Next, embrace abundance through simplicity and live more by doing less.